Okay, cool. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for choosing to spend this time with us today. We're hanging out at the legendary Kippies out here in Newtown. And I've got my man Maakomele Manaka with me. Manaka, hoe lyk it?
Yeah, say it with your chest.
You tell me.
Say it with your chest. My bro, I guess reg.
Nee.
So, you know, I guess tamati sauce buta. Chicken and dumpling, you know.
I don't
Acha
know what any of these
monate.
mean, but I like eating it, so.
Acha monate acha chicken. No complaints, really no complaints more than anything else.
Nice.
I mean, record Kippies, my brother. You know, hey, this is where it all begins for me. My first book begins right here.
If
you
only.
know, if only.
Right.
Man. You know, and the legendary Kippies, my brother. I mean, a lot of memories come to the space. A lot of this is 20 years ago, by the way.
For sure.
That's 20 years ago, and it's 20 years later. So you know, it's nostalgia and very vulnerable kind of a space.
Right.
Very interesting type
Right,
of a
yeah.
space that I find myself in.
I mean, Kippies, like all really iconic venues, are sort of victim to what's happening in the city, really, you know. So what we have is really these memories. And it's funny because 2003, I came to Joburg, and that was my first introduction to Newtown, you know. So it's also me celebrating 20 years of walking past Kippies, coming in and out of here, seeing people like yourself and all the other poets doing their thing, saying, I want to do that, you know. But I'm happy that this is also the foundation of your first book, because we're going to talk a lot today in particular about your latest book, Flowers of a Broken Smile, right? And you are embarking on this beautiful project, translating the Protea.
Look,
My bro, break it down.
Yo, born. It's not my latest book, right? My latest book is this one with the
oncoming
face.
traffic, yes,
Traffic,
yes, right.
coming at you, right? But translating the Protea is a lifetime attempt, right? In that, how do we make a poetry accessible in our languages, right? For instance, I mean, I'm thinking off the top of the dome, right? Sounds of a cowhide drum, right? How do we make that accessible in all the languages of, you know, in all the so-called demotive languages, or, you know, the spoken languages of the people, right? And, you know, there's always been this this thing that why don't you write in your own language? Why don't you, you know, I mean. And Papa Rams answered this question so beautifully and said that I'm not interested in whether you can write in your own languages or not, but I'm interested in whether you can actually reimagine your own language, stretch your own language, right? Because there are handed down images all over, even in English too, right? But also in your own, like how are you able to show us something that we see every day, but how you use the language to actually stretch this particular image, right? And for me, translating the Protea is exactly that, in that I want to hear how certain poems sound in a particular language. You know, actually in all the languages. I mean, my first book, I chose, not my first book, what's this, my third book. Hey, there's 4 books.
Yeah.
There are 4 books, so I get confused. Right, yeah.
Also age, but it's
Thank
fine.
you. Oh, there are 4 books.
Sure.
4. I was gunning for 10 by the time I'm 40. So, you know, I'm very much behind.
You've got time, Dara.
I'm very much behind. I'm turning 40 now, man. I wanted to go 10 by the time I'm 40. To have published 10 books by the time I'm 40. But anyway, so translating the Protea, right? Flowers of a Broken Smile is my 3rd collection, and this collection is where there's a certain change in tone, a certain change in voice as well. I mean, you could say this is when Manaka becomes a bit older, you know. And for me, this was a homage to my teachers back at the school known as Rhodes.
Right.
You know, ko ntwingena ko Makhanda. Ke Makhanda, yeah. Khona ra, wa bona ntho jwalo. So instead of long poems, but shorter type of a setup. Right. And that's what Flowers of a Broken Smile is, and actually still was at the same time, it still is for me, right? Now, to choose that collection as the first collection where I'm translating it into these three languages, which is Afrikaans, Sepedi, and isiXhosa.
Right.
You know, I find there's a lot of music in our languages, my brother. You know, I find a lot of music in language. There's a lot of musicality in language, right? I mean, English language also has that too. You know, I mean, you can't. Yeah, the English language also has that too, depending on how you use the words, right? So, Flowers of a Broken Smile, especially the collection. This was my attempt, you know. I was trying to show my teachers that this is what I have learned. Right? Yeah, I learned this. You guys taught me this. Sure. You know, hence a homage.
Brevity being one, because those poems is like there's a marked difference from the collections before, where it's literally like compounded ideas into these short,
very much,
you know, fugues that, and also you exploring a lot of sort of, or demasculizing the poems and really interrogating, I want to be a woman, and what does that, or not be a woman, I want to woman.
I want to woman,
and what does that look like and play out, and how does that play out in a poem, you know? So there's these very specific themes as well. There is a marked change from where the work had been before as well. And that is what you're choosing to translate and give to the world.
I mean, this is, you know, and also as a template.
Right.
As well, because my thing is that I want to see how this lifetime attempt of a project, right, looks like holistically, right? But starting first with this collection, because this collection is, like you were saying, it has complex themes, you know, and some of the lines in there are a little bit. Like, I mean, how do you translate, how do you say, I want a woman, Kasepedi?
Right.
Right? And I mean, you know, shout out to Ntatenape. Actually, shout out to my lady, man, for actually pointing that out. You know?
Saying there's something here that you need to look at.
Yeah, baby. You know? And, you know, I mean, when I think about it, I'm like, Murim, how do you translate that? I mean, how do you say, I want a woman? And when I spoke to Ntatenape was like, oh, okay, so he understood, he couldn't find a way of saying it without not making sense, you know. And look, I always believe that only poets can translate poetry. Right? Poets who are well versed in the language can do a better job, because and also they can come to the text as poets, not as translators per se. I mean, translating a poem into another language is almost like writing a new poem. Not even almost, it is writing a new poem.
Exactly.
Sorry, ultimately it is that, right? And you know, Rampolo Gang says to me, that the Papa Ram says to me, he says, hey man, can you speak? Do you understand
these languages you are?
You know, when he translates, and I'm like, no, I can't say, but I'll learn. And that has been the process of learning certain words in Sepedi that sound like, I mean, lerata, I mean, lechuba, la king, machiwa mielo, for instance. Man. What are you saying?
What's going on here?
Yeah, what's going on here? You know, and then this is the Sepedi. This is the Sesotho sa Leboa. Let me put it like that. Not Sepedi, but Sesotho sa Leboa. Right. And that there are footnotes for every word that you could use it like this or in this way, because there is Sesotho sa Leboa. There is how the King Basikukuni speak like this, Bahamatlala speak like this. They, so all of, these are nations,
Right.
right. And Tete Nape went there. I am super grateful for this, right? So, I mean, to come back to this thing, to come back to breaking down what is translating the Protea is a lifetime attempt of a project to actually sort of make our poetry, not like a literature nakaufela per se, mara we start with the poetry. Right? Not all of the literature, but just poetry, because we have some of the most, we have a canon of amazing poets in this country. Historically, I mean, come on. Wait, hold on. We have, it's, and I can't imagine what it would be like to translate Lesotho Rampolo King's poetry, because you can't even get it yourself in English. Right? But the point is to make our poetry accessible. Right? And to have the Department of Education is we are talking now of teaching in our own languages. We are talking of having education in our own languages, right? And my thinking was, why not also groundwork? There should be some level of groundwork also. There should be some content, more than anything else. There should be somewhere where, man, I believe that, Kentemba needs to be studied in high school. Before you can study Kentemba in varsity. No, before we get to varsity, Kentemba, that they can do. I mean, that's my father.
That's the groundwork. Like,
this is part of the groundwork,
down to
right?
building from the ground up, foundation.
What is the template?
Right.
So this here becomes a part of that template of how do we, what how long does it take? What's the translation process like? How long does it take? And after that, the quality assurance, yeah, language, right? Dileka poet fela somebody else as well, So hence I'm saying, like, this is a lifetime attempt. But first we start with Flowers of a Broken Smile because of its complexities. Right. In these three languages, first and foremost.
Can I just jump in there and say, so I've read the Afrikaans translation. And these poems, I've said it to you personally over the phone and when we saw each other. These poems for me are beautiful in any language, really. And reading them in Afrikaans in particular, sort of there's this depth and this understanding of language, right, that translates into every other language. But the pitfalls, obviously, of translation in particular is sometimes you end up with a new poem in a new language, and it doesn't necessarily carry the essence and the spirit of the poem as the original writer intended, right? And I know there's obviously that tug and pull that you are going through with the people that are translating, where you would have these conversations and ask, is this true to the poem as it can be, or is there another way in which we can sort of figure this out, right? That for me becomes a very interesting conversation because, one, it creates a body of work that exists in other spaces beyond you and the barriers that your home language offers to you, right? But also it opens the question up of, once we start doing this type of work, and you said it earlier on, who can best translate? Where do we draw from, firstly, to make sure that Flowers of a Broken Smile in English and in Afrikaans and in Sepedi is exactly the same as it was in the original text? For you personally, what is the foundation that you set for the translators going forward? Did you guys have a conversation discussing sort of the nuance and the content of the book and trying to make sure they understand what it is you are trying to say? Or do you take a poet that you trust, that is fully capable, and you throw it at them and say, let's see what you come up with? How does that process work out for you? And then also considering that this is going to, like you said, live forever, and you are not just dealing with poetry, but also the legacy of language beyond this book. So you have to be very careful with not just putting an English version of whatever is there in the new collection, So what is that process looking like for you? And also, how frustrating is it? Because it has to be frustrating.
Super frustrating. Very frustrating. But anyway, You know, it's I had to, of course, speak to the poets first, and but the chosen poets, right? The
Right.
ones that I don't want to say I chose these poets, or the thing is that when I was putting this project together, right, and when I was going through what are the first three languages that I want to start with, and I went like, oh, Xhosa, Sepedi, le Seburu. Oh, Xhosa ke mang ka mo naganang? Oh, Ayanda was the first thought in my head. You know, like, oh, Pili, okay, right. And I never thought, you know, Allen Ginsberg says to us, first thought, best thought.
Right. Keep it.
I took that literally. Right, and when I get a Lesiburu as well. When I thought of Africans, the first person who came to mind was Odendal.
Peter.
You know,
Peter
yeah.
Odendal.
And so for Sepedi is interesting. For Sepedi, the first person I thought of, initially, Moses Siletisha. You know. And Moses was a little bit busy and preoccupied, right? And then I'm like, what am I gonna do now, right? Because the wheels are now in motion.
In motion, for sure.
Then Tatena became, you know, when Moses said that he's busy, right? He can't, you know, he doesn't have enough time to deal with the text. And I'm like, oh, why can someone pile? But
Sure.
the first person I thought of was Moses. Anyway, so it's not whether the person is good or not, but it's just the person
That's the one.
that's the first thought. Oh, okay. All right. It's like a light bulb that
Sure.
was in my head, you know, and I went with it. And then Ntatenape, yeah. Boo, fat. And because I love some of his novels in Sepedi, right? I mean, I can't say to you that I've read his poetry, Sepedi, but I love some of his novels that he's written, some of his stories that he's written in Sepedi. I mean, and his use of language, but I love his poetry that I've read before, you know, in... You know, in return to the Amasi bed. I mean, some, you know, and voices from within. So, you know, I've loved his poetry more than anything else, and I couldn't believe that I actually am friends with his daughter. You know, like, you know, type of a setup, like yo, you know, I mean. You know, when somebody's good at something, like me, I become a fan, and I know you, and because I know you, I become that big of a fan, right? So anyway, so the conversations between me and the poets, I had to explain that this is what's going on, this is what's up, right? And you know, this comes from the first time I dealt with with translation, which was for my second book. Some of the poems in my second book with Raphael. You know, me and Raphael was translating some of my poems into Italian.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I saw this process, and I saw this kind of and this is years ago, my brother. This is
during what was this Peo Tsarona? That
Peo
Italian-
Tsarona.
Yes.
Yes.
And he did some Afrikaans work into English, into Italian as well. Of my This is years ago. 2004, 5.
That process stuck in the back of my head, and I said, you know, because what we would go through in terms of, you go through the text and and this is before I even went to school. I mean, I was at school at the time, as in like him schooling me whatsoever. But you know how he would actually sort of ask me the intention of the line, intention behind the line, and so to go into the text more than anything else, you know, and to make sure that he, as a translator to another language, understands exactly what the poet's intention is, right? Yet alone the tone, yet alone, but to also somehow sort of keep with the rhythm and the tone, of course, you know, in another language.
Right.
But to understand the intention, that is this what I had meant by using this word here or not? So that stuck in the back of my head. And And this was the process, this was the approach more than anything else with the poets in that look, gents. What's about 1 month, you know, because I thought 1 month would be enough.
Sure.
You know, you're trying.
You're very optimistic or naive, but
yeah, no, my brother. I mean, that is very much naive. You know, naivete. You know, I mean, it's
on
not
your part.
man, very much on my part. On all honesty,
Sure.
you know, because I don't know. Let me just say that what I knew is I don't know. What I know is that I didn't know shit at the time, right? Even like, so this is trial and error for me. But one thing for sure, the process of me and the poets having to communicate and to sort of, you know, translating a poem into another language is almost like writing a new poem, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But because I'm still alive, right? I'm still here. You can see me. You
Right.
can. Isa voga
Right.
lendugu. You can. Ne? I can explain certain. I can clarify certain intentions
Right.
and certain reasons as to why this, what I meant by saying this, or, you know, I can explain
Right.
or I can clarify all of these things and not leave it just to the poets
Right.
themselves only to just let it say, so this is what I think this means. This is what I'm actually thinking this means. But before we can actually go any further, there has to be that
back and forth,
that
and
back and forth, right?
feeding and taking, yeah.
No doubt, and that was the that was the process, and that process, my brother. I mean, I thought it was going to be a month. It was 2 months long.
It takes a while to
It
sort of
takes a
bring a creature to
while.
life, you know. And I mean, while you're talking, I keep picturing Frankenstein's monster. You know, it's
My man.
like the bulk of the body is flowers of a broken smile in your voice and how you wrote it. The rest is these poets, their intentions, their history, their understanding of the text, patching and making this
And
body.
also their language, and so
Right.
their usage of the
Right.
of the language, right? Because my thing was the usage of language, because poetry, man, is all about the usage
Exactly.
and the economy of
words.
words, right? And when you look at the original text, when you look at Flowers of a Broken Smile, there are all of these
Elements.
Yeah, all of these elements.
Right.
Ne, kgantla-kgantla tsa gore it's only, there's like 3 words per 4 stanza.
sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
like 4-line stanza, and in each line there are 3 words.
Sure. Staying within those brackets and saying, how does your language operate within these confines that the English has created?
That wa e tlhaloganya ntho jwalo. And my thing was, look, we don't have to necessarily translate word for word, line for line. It's a matter of understanding the intention.
Making sure
right?
that shines through.
Yeah, do you understand? Do you know what the poem is saying, first and foremost? So we'd have these engagements, we'd have these conversations, you know, and you find that, you know, I mean, some of the conversations I've had with Ayanda, for instance, you know, in that, you know, he says he would stop. I mean, so Ayanda's process was very interesting.
Tell me.
Yeah, Ayanda wrote the poems down. Yeah, as in like, so he reads the English version, and then what he thinks the text is saying.
Right.
You know? And I'm like, Billy.
What's with these extra steps?
What's going on? You know, but, you know, I always trust the process more than anything else, you know, and hence I was like, okay, I see, okay, a month is not enough.
To do justice to, and I mean something like Flowers, which is so sort of layered and nuanced, I think it really does require quite a bit of, you have to be
Quite.
skilled in the language,
Quite.
one, and number two, like you said, it's there's so much intention hidden behind everyday words that we use in that collection that you're right, like the poet simply has to use that as the foundation
Completely.
of the translation,
Completely.
and then figure out, like you say, how can I then stretch my language into shape and make sure that the poem itself starts to resemble Dase, But I want to talk about that's what the project looks like, and that's what
so that was the process with the poets. I mean, it was not a matter of okay, this is like this and that's it. No, it was more cultivating,
Right.
going deep inside of the meaning, right? Going deep inside of the text,
Right.
clarifying certain lines like this one of I want a woman.
Right.
How do you say this in Kasepedi, my brother? Ke nyaka bosadi. I mean, ke nyaka wa mosadi. I mean, how do you say these kind of things? I want a woman like my grandmother. How do you say this? So this also was this challenged
Right.
the poets to.
Like ask themselves, like where am I situated in this vast thing and what order of words will do justice to this thing?
Without sort of coming, without sounding off or sounding
perverting the meaning or the
So it was work, man. We worked into it, and I'm so grateful that they were able to, like, bona, they went into the text, with back and forth of Manaka. What do you mean here, Manaka? Clarify this, please. I mean, poetry is condensed language in itself.
Right.
Baudelaire lost his hand, the rap dragon's leg, Ginsberg running wild on jazz music, organic, nothing, poet. I mean, how do you translate all of that? Come on. And trying to keep with the tone.
Right.
Right? So the Afrikaans manuscript, Odendal did a beautiful job. I mean, everybody did a beautiful job. Make no mistake about it.
Peter definitely, as a person that reads Afrikaans poetry.
So he's like, okay, some poems are moving with rhythm, some poems depend on rhyme.
Right.
I mean, when I had the one-on-one, look, so there's also the one-on-one sessions with the poets. I had to have that.
Of course.
Like in a back and forth, looking at all of this, before I actually even have a one-on-one, I have to clarify certain things and then have the one-on-one, like this, one-on-one, not necessarily like typing, clarifying. No, like do that. And then actually have it's a process.
Right.
It was not just fela gore, I just gave you the English manuscript, you see what you do with it. No, Rabereka. No, we are.
Right.
It's an elephant. We are teaching each other how to eat this elephant in the room. Ultimately,
and
it was a process.
It's constant. Like there's a constant back and forth, and it's like a living, breathing thing that really only gets set free once you send it to the publishers or to the printers. Because you are the publisher.
Before we get to the printers, before we even get to the publishing hand, right? It's not just because I wrote the text does not necessarily the poets have copyright, right? The poets have that king. The poets have leeway. They have so I don't want to stifle that. That I don't want to hold the poet's pen hostage, right? Or limited. Nah. Ink, leave me to sleep. As Nonsense Mkweto would say, ink, leave me to sleep, right? But not, hey, Mac, no, Manaka, no, please, wait. No, I didn't want to do that, right? So, and I was like, okay, Mafrika, look, if you feel comfortable, if you feel very, I go with what you say works, if anything, because my trust is in what you are able to do with the language, right? So what you don't understand, what you're having problems with in terms of clarifications and meaning, this we can actually talk. Sure. And I approached this whole process as a poet myself.
Right.
Not a publisher, please hold the phone. No.
Well, at least not yet, because
not just yet.
The process is unfolding.
The processes.
Yeah.
The processes. it's a journey. So we were on this journey. We are, it's the processes. For me, it's multiple processes.
Right.
Ultimately, it's different. It's wearing different hats. It's wearing different responsibilities. Type of a setup. So, because after the poets comes the linguistic assurance.
Right.
In that we have the linguists now
Right.
having to deal with the text.
Right.
And going back and forth with the poet who translated the text. Right. And if ever the poet and the linguist have an issue here and there, Manaka, what exactly are you talking about?
Please,
Yeah, tell us, please, come on, clarify this rubbish. What is this? Type of a setup. If there are such nuances, if there are such things happening, and
it's a really multifaceted process. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's not pap and vlees die
English.
goedes moet.
Give me the
It's
Afrikaans
not pap
words.
and vlees die goedes moet. No. Chicken and dumpling is nice, but this is not like
that's
that.
not
No. It's literally actually having to harvest the chicken.
Right.
Chicken. And then having to having to have the ingredients for the dumpling. Before you can have chicken and dumpling, wait a minute.
Right.
Before we can get that far.
We're literally putting the dumpling together from scratch.
Look, the ingredient to put the dumpling together from scratch, you need the pot. You have the pots. So this was a process. It still is a little bit heavy, my brother, but for me, it's a template,
For sure.
right? In that, how else am I going to deal with the other languages moving further?
Right.
Moving on, because the three languages that we are rolling this project out into, Sepedi, Sesotho sa Leboa, Afrikaans, le Sexhosa. There's also other languages too.
For sure.
I mean,
if you're doing the 11 of it, that means you have 8 more languages
the
to go.
Nama's gonna come on them
And
there.
then the exact same process with each and every.
Exactly.
And then I'm also assuming if you're going to like the Kwekwe and the Nama
Yes.
languages, that's even more intense because you're dealing with a language that has no real, it doesn't have the type of references that all the other languages offer. So there you would need sort of, lived experience and people that understand how that language moves, as opposed to, how it's taught to us when they sent us the Kwekwe Khwab dictionary and they say learn the language. It's not the same thing. You know what I mean? So I can imagine that going forward, but this sort of I think sets you up for success with that, but it also makes you understand that for the rest of your life while this project is playing out, that this is how you yourself are going to constantly have to come back and revisit your own text and remind yourself of what was I saying, why was I saying.
That's exactly what I went through here. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I went through. In that, I'm like, oh my God. So I would actually look at the text outside of course, I mean, I would explain certain nuances in the text, understanding them at that moment.
Damn.
So when I was alone, I'm like, oh my God, did I actually write it like that?
Sure.
But when I was going through the text with the poet, I was understanding certain things afresh, anew.
Right.
Look, it's out of me now. It doesn't. It's not mine anymore. Right now, I approach the text as a reader.
Right.
Not because no, I'm not approaching it as a writer. No. This process I welcome. I welcome this
Right, the
process,
reading
my brother.
process.
Yeah, the reading process. I welcome this, and I'm very happy that I'm able to look at text outside of myself as the one who wrote it. I mean, this is it's a learned kind of a skill,
Right. Yeah, it's like detaching yourself from a piece of yourself and then interrogating it objectively. And then saying, what praat jy hierso, my bro? Wat gaan aan hierso?
Yeah, man. And then at some point you remember where you were when you were actually writing this text.
Right.
That also happened. So this constant kind of back and forth. I mean, I remember I was talking to Sabelo this one time, and we were talking about writers being 5-dimensional in that you can...
5-dimensional.
5-dimensional, my brother, in that memory is just the next room.
Right.
Like... the next room could be 10 years ago. And then like 10 years later, so in that sense that that you can go in and out of 10 years ago type of a setup as a writer. I mean, memory is the weapon.
For
How
sure.
defenseless are we, many of us right now, Quaz? You know, I mean, really. Yeah, but memory is the weapon, ultimately. You know, and the writer actually sort of, you know, it's not that the writer never forgets, but like Rimbaud says, you know, the poet makes himself a seer. You know, the poet, the poet sifts through. I mean, I'm gonna paraphrase this thing, this quote of his, and you know, Arthur Rimbaud, the French poet, was actually younger than you
He
and
was a
I.
lighty, man. He was like 18.
Much younger than
Much
you
and
and I.
writing amazing
By the
work.
time he was
Yeah.
18, he was flat. Fuck, he was out, he was finished. He was no more poems. I mean, by the time he was 20 or something like that, he was no more poems. Anyway, so he
Tell
says
the world
that,
what is, we must wade through the muck and the mire.
man, you know, like the poet, the poet, the poet, what's this? Yeah, it sifts through the. You see, now it's gone. This quote, man, because
paraphrase it.
it's look. I live by that. In the, you know, like it's practical to me, in that you know, the poet, takes in all the poisons of the world and keeps only the quintessence. And for this, the poet needs superhuman strength. You know, because the poet makes himself or herself a seer, right? You are observant. You are checking it out. You're sussing it out. You know, man, and how do you say what you see? Right? How do you articulate exactly how you see in a way that is, you know, it is like in Tatanap would say, like it's compact, you know, but it's not as compact that it doesn't make, you know, it doesn't have to make sense, if anything. Can you feel it in a sense that is more,
Damn.
you know, it's
Like the poem becomes like a sensory experience as opposed to just reading or hearing the words.
Man, you have
understanding
to say it out
beyond.
loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta say it out loud. I mean, a poem lies dead on the page until
the
some
poet's
voice
right.
brings it to life. Basil Bunting, right? It is a practical thing for me, you know, in that I mean, the poem aspires to be a song, as that the Khosile once said, you know, and when you read the poems out loud, you get to hear the nuances, you get to hear how it moves. I mean, man, it is a lifetime attempt.
For sure.
You know, I mean, can you imagine having to translate the, getting off the right? I mean, Mafiga Kuala, Modima Hozo, you know, or like, or Africa my beginning, Africa
sure.
my ending. You know,
Malingwane.
I mean, Malingwane. I mean, can you imagine, right? And having it to be accessible, because my point is, how can we make our poetry accessible, right? And the and like the canon of our of poetry in South Africa is, my brother,
It's vast.
very vast,
Dynamic.
very vast. And all angles, you know, all angles. I mean, Wapko Jensma, for instance.
Oh, don't get started. You
I
know.
mean, yeah.
I love him.
You know, my man, I mean, you know, that Mafiga Kwala, I read one at some point saying that that first time he met Wapko Jensma, he thought
He
Wapko
thought he
Jensma
was
was
white.
black.
I mean, yeah. Then he meets this guy and it's like,
You know-
what non-racialism is this?
My brother, I mean, the point is that we have a lot of you know, we have a lot to learn from, especially for young poets today. I mean, look, I am a poet. I am poet. And I find myself at a point now where when I look back, my reference was hip hop.
Right.
You know, I mean, even when it comes to jazz too, my reference is hip hop. You know, but at the same time too, because I grew up in an art center, you know, I was raised by writers more than anything else. It's not like I chose this. This chose me more than anything else. And I used to be excited when they would talk about Africa, my beginning at home.
Right.
You know, I'd be so excited, right? But but when I was actually getting deep into this, right, my reference was hip hop more than anything else, right? And when I went to do my masters, and Rampoloking and them and Berold, when they opened me up to, man, an entire universe of writers from South Africa.
To reference from.
From South Africa. I mean, see, come
now, Earth
my
Stepper.
man. Yes.
The ocean is
I'm
very
like, I didn't
shallow.
know this shit. I'm like, why the fuck didn't I learn this in school?
Right.
You know, I mean, Tata Don, look, I love Tata Don, Joe. I love Tata Don without a doubt. I mean, Tata Don, yeah. And again, Tata Don that we actually sort of come close to in high school. And outside of Tata Don, there's nothing else. You know? And I'm like, and then I come to know Kentemba. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. You know, the use of language. You know? And I get to find out that there is other voices.
A well. Deep,
I mean,
well.
Tate Khositsile, for instance, when you look at his poem, Towards a Walk in the Sun, my brother, I felt like I wrote that shit. Forget about it. How it sounded. I'm like, hey, wait.
Tell them about hunger.
My brother, what does my hunger have to do with a goddamn poem? Yo. But, you know, the tone in that poem, I'm like, this almost sounded like I could have written this, you know? And I suppose, my brother, you know, you know, and this thing, you know, I mean, for me, it's not a matter of preserving our languages or whatsoever. No, for me, it's a matter of having access. Right. I mean, since my accident, right? I mean, look, I got hurt when I was 12, my brother. I only know how I am and what I am physically from my disability, right? I'm 40 this year. You again? 40. Not 4.
Right.
40. Yeah. I only know how to run and all these things that are physical for 12 years, right? So it's always been a matter of accessibility for me, right? And I thought, how do I translate my bane of existence, what has been my bane of existence rather, that I've come to see that I've not had access to Ata Norki, for instance. Chicken? Who do I have to talk to? Where do I have to go, really? I mean, I
hear you.
You know, so I took that, which was a physical thing for me, which has been like that for me for some time. But for what I do, because of this is what I do, and when I was exposed to such voices, I thought, it's not fair.
Right.
You know, to each birth is blood. I mean, look, we can, look, you know, so accessibility becomes the driving force for this project, which is translating the Protea ultimately. You know, I'm not in a business of preserving language no, I'm in a business of making language accessible, making poetry accessible, especially when you look at the history.
And by default, that work starts doing the work of preservation as well.
I mean, for instance, you're gonna have to teach Flowers of a Broken Smile in Afrikaans.
I can't
to your
wait,
class.
Jamal, to teach them the word chalam. Like, this is the only place you'll read this word this year in the Afrikaans version of Flowers. Mac, we've been here for quite some time, and I just want to touch on one thing before we go. Firstly, this is a really amazing project, and just the passion with which you speak about it, and really like the like you keep mentioning as well, the intention, you know, it definitely shines through. And I think it's important for us to also view our work beyond ourselves and our timelines, you know, and our languages and our physical barriers and our, you know, sort of linguistic barriers. And I think this is what this project is doing beautifully, or attempting at least to do. But I want to touch on this very briefly, and I don't know if you want to or not. This book is going to come out under your publishing house, right? Manaka Publications. And I say that to say this because the one that we have...
And I have to drink some water now, you know. I have to put some water in my system now.
Right?
You know, for the past 5, maybe close to, for some time now, I've been working on collecting my rights.
Right.
My publishing rights, my mechanical rights, and understanding these languages.
What it is, for sure.
What do they mean, right? And I'm happy to say that I actually own all the rights to my books.
That's
you
good
know,
to hear.
All the rights, as in all the publishing, all the printing, all the mechanical. Right, the layout and the design. Eric is kena kotabeng ya Rahman. You know, Rahman. This is Rahman. But anyway, let me not get into that. You know, ke politiki ya gagwe. But because I've been working on getting my rights, and for me, like I'm saying, accessibility has been an issue. It's been at the core of everything. Right? How do I make my work accessible and exactly the way I want it to be accessible, and where can I make it accessible, and how do I make it sort of, how can people get it? How can, and also how can I have a say as to how do I get this work
out to the world?
To high schools, for instance. How do I have that kind of you know, can I have this this leverage or this power to actually get this work to young folk out there? You know, I mean, it's written by a young man. These things, right? So I thought, okay, maybe a publishing house wouldn't be such a bad idea to actually, you know, because they need to have a place where they live, these guys.
Right.
Okay,
and I guess
house.
It also allows you a certain level of control and
Pretty much.
how much you sort of want to invest of
how
yourself
much I want to see it actually go and where it goes and how it goes too.
And it also makes you the only fall man. If it doesn't
if it doesn't work, you can blame me.
Send it. Yeah, so
I can take it.
sure. As opposed to having to complain to 5 different people via email.
Man, as opposed to having to call the publisher and be like, okay, my brother, can I please get 10 more books?
Sure.
Can I please get this more books, right? So everything is dependent on... So I'm learning the business of publishing, by the way, as it is, right? So hence, I'm starting with only my books. So I can understand how this business of publishing works.
Right.
You know, distribution, and what kind of distribution are we talking about? Bulk sale or just, you know... all the nuances.
Like familiarizing yourself with how this entire thing works.
Before I can say I'm going to publish Quaz.
You know exactly what goes into publishing.
I know exactly what goes into that shit, right? And using my work as like a template, for instance, you know, because I can't say I want to go with what I've seen happen with publishing houses and all that shit. You know, I mean, this is my 4th book, brother. I mean, and I'm very grateful to Post also being able to say, okay, Manaka, give us this much. Can give you your shit, man. You know, I'm only getting to do some of those things that I wanted to do all those years ago. Sort of now, in that, there's a certain level of understanding, there's a certain level of clarity, you know, but also at the same time too, I don't know. Ultimately, I'm learning as I go along, right? I mean, this is how I taught myself how to drive. By the way, look.
Stop, start. What does this do?
Hey, what what is this cycle here happening? What is it called? Really, this is exactly how I taught myself how to drive. You know, like a trial and error. I'm that kind of a person, you know. So you show me once, you help me the second time, the third time I'm on my own, if anything, you know. But of course, because that's how it is at home too. My mother doesn't sit with me. My mother says, "Why don't you do this?" She would help me here, and then she'd be like, you know. Man, she's done a lot of these things. Look, the National Arts Council, right? This is the people that were able to that were funding this project. The PSP, the stimulus, the president's employment stimulus thing, and also BASA now, right? The Department of Arts and Culture. I'm from back in the day. What's it called now? Department of Sports, Arts and Culture.
That's the
Good. So this book is made possible by these institutions, you know, by actually it's made possible by having to apply.
Right.
By the way, if anything, and having spent sleepless nights.
Right.
Not knowing whether it's going to happen or not.
Did I fill the proposal
Did I
out
fill it
correctly?
right? Did I do it right? Is my language that sexy or not? You know, but I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in the project. But I can't tell you how stressful that is for me. But look, the gods of literature came through and actually, okay, oh, all right, this is an interesting idea. This is a good idea. Okay, let's put some money into it. Let's see how it goes. You know. And now look, hold on. This is my first application. These are my first applications into these institutions. Quaz. For me, this is first time having to deal with proposals and whatnot in the language, you know. But it's not the first time having to write these proposals, because these proposals for me have been there years ago. They've been cultivating themselves in the back of my head.
Brewing, stewing, growing
you know?
new limbs, like becoming,
Sure. And my mother would be like, go like, okay, write it down. You know, she would help me the first time. The second time I'm on my own, man. When I have to do like budgets and shit like that, I mean, I'm on my own. That time, I'm on my own.
Look, Manaka, I'm happy that this process is sort of playing out for you like that, and also that you are not understanding that these things are things that I need to do myself, you know, and I've taken the lessons from wherever else. And I'm more so excited as well that the work that we've been working on, you know, I think over the weekend you and I had a conversation about, you know, if you have 20 years of networking, of work experience, of building relationships, you know, it all really boils down to this very point here and what the decision you want to make now and how you will utilize those things, you know. And for me as a person who firstly is a fan of yours, but also a friend and someone who's really like a lover of your poetry, it's exciting to see the possibilities of where even mine can go. You know, the idea of I've now been writing in Afrikaans for these last 4 or 5 years. There's a possibility because Mac has worked on this template for my Afrikaans work to live in Chivenda.
Exactly.
You know, and I think it's a really interesting thing, and maybe because you're also in the hoo-ha of it all you might not see it, but this for me is once again just a sort of stamp on also the legacy work that you have been doing over the years, you know, which is maintaining your love for the word and finding avenues to make the word shine, you know? And I think that for me has always been with the thing with you. We can talk a whole lot of things. We always come back to the poetry, and you'll always have a text or a PDF that you'll send me the next week, or a quote from some poet or whatever else. So I know that this is, in particular, is rooted in your passion for this work, you know. And I'm also very excited about the Manaka publications that is happening.
Yeah, man.
I think you and I are going to have another session to just discuss.
Oh, definitely. We're going to have another conversation about that more than anything else, you know, the business side of everything else. I mean, because as a poet, as a writer, you must train yourself, right? I mean, much of critique belongs to knowing how to read. How do you critique something when you don't know how to read? And you must train yourself in all of these things, you know? So, I mean, we are dealing with text, not you. We are dealing with your text.
Right.
Not you.
Don't care about you.
No, you can just sit over there.
Let me read what you wrote here and
you
tell
know,
you.
and once you actually get this thing out of your head that it's not about you, you know, and look, man, I'm a poet as they come with the ego and whatnot, you know, as arrogant, and I'm egotistically arrogant and arrogantly humble too, you know, if anything. But you know, as Antsenako iya, I'm learning that it's not about me.
Right.
You know, it's about the text. You know, and especially to be open to such voices that I didn't know before.
Interesting.
Interesting. The business aspect of it all is another muscle that needs to be trained. You know, especially the business of publication. Because I call it a project-based publications company. You know, project-based in that we deal with projects.
Yeah.
Right. It's not about what we are publishing, but rather about the project as a whole.
In a silo, and then we focus all our attention on that, and
we move. And we move, because it's not about me. It's not for me more than anything else, you know. But men must live. As Nateskia once said in his poem, in a short story, men must live, men must eat. You know, men must learn how to live off their own craft. I mean, I have myself to actually look at. I must understand how this works, how that works, and how this works, so that I don't get an accountant who's going to actually take 100,000 out of my bank account just by actually sort of, you know, scratching something.
So be aware, be skilled in every...
I must understand every
diversify
aspect,
your skill set and make sure that you understand. My
brother. And that is why it's so the project based is to enhance the writing, the writer's skill set outside of writing, right? That is why I'm more interested into the poetry. I'm more interested in getting poets to translate poems, you know, as opposed to getting translators of, you know,
linguists and people that work with
no, I rather get the people that deal with this, that write in this, that live this, that sleep and dream about this. Hence. The overall picture of it is to uplift you, man. To uplift myself too, no doubt. You know, but the writing skill set, you know, I mean, a promotion of our languages of South Africa. Sure, I get. We must promote our languages. We must promote ourselves and whatnot and our cultures, whatsoever. But at the same time, too, we must be able to promote our writing skill set as writers, ultimately, beyond the writing, and say, oh, okay. No, because I write poetry in Setswana, I can be able to look at poems and actually say, why not translate it in a different, you know, I can take this English version or this Venda version and translate it into Setswana, for instance. You know, I mean, why is that not possible? Why can't we do that? Why can't we take works from before and translate it and have people who write in those languages translate them and make it hip and make it fun and make it accessible? Make it hip and make it fun. Man, if you're going to mess up, like Miles Davis would say, mess up big.
Right.
If I'm fucking up, I'm going to fuck up big. I'm telling you.
Well, hey, look, we don't want you to fuck up. I think like what I've seen and heard thus far really instills a sense of excitement, but also just being proud of really, you know, where my peers are taking this thing and so the avenues that you are opening up for us, you know. We've been here for a while. You and I are going to catch up again sometime soon.
Yeah, we got to catch up and talk about the muscle training and for business, man.
For sure.
No doubt.
This is myself and Mac Manaka. My name is Quaz. You guys know Mac Manaka. And like I said, he's embarking on translating the Protea.
Translating the Protea, and, the most resilient of flowers. It looks beautiful in its death. It never dies. It never dies. And that is who we are, my brother. We are the living link, the African heritage. We do not fear death. We celebrate it. The fear of death is the fear of life itself. Thus the dead are not dead. Now that's my father. That's Maakomele Manaka, by the way.
Let's wrap it up right there with Maakomele Manaka. Mac, thank you very much for your insights and also for this amazing work that you are doing.
That's it, my brother.
You and I will see each other real soon. And catch up on how this project is going.
Very. This is how we kickstart this whole process, man. This is where we at. Translating the Protea.
See you guys on the next episode. Ciao.
I tried glancing at her world, but she threw meteors at my heart and called me alien. Never had she felt the poet's beat beneath his belt. She of a foreign melody grooves to the music of 1,000 guitars picking fragile strings of my spirit.